Have you ever found yourself in a situation where a difficult person seemed to take away all your peace? Whether at work, at home, or even on the street, we deal with people who, unknowingly, test us to the limit. But what if I told you that you have the power to transform these situations and come out stronger, calmer, and at peace? Well, the lessons of Stoicism may be exactly what you need. Instead of letting anger or discomfort take over, you can learn to stay calm and react wisely, regardless of the other person's behavior. Want to know how? Let's explore some lessons that will not only change the way you react to difficult people, but will also help you cultivate lasting peace. The best part? It's simpler than you think. Now I want to hear from you. Write in the comments the phrase, "I control my emotions." This is a commitment to yourself to stay calm, no matter what happens around you. The Stoic philosophy offers a simple, yet highly effective approach when it comes to dealing with emotions, especially anger. Instead of trying to suppress what we feel, the Stoics suggest that we should learn to control how we react to these feelings. They teach us that what really matters is our response to situations, not the situations themselves. In other words, we can feel anger, but we decide how that emotion will affect our actions. By controlling our reactions, we preserve our inner peace, which is one of the greatest legacies of Stoicism. Imagine yourself in a situation where someone publicly criticizes you or says something you don't like. Naturally, anger may arise. However, what Stoic philosophy suggests is that you don't need to act based on that anger. Instead of giving in to immediate impulses, the Stoic steps back from the situation, takes a deep breath, and analyzes the situation rationally. For example, in traffic, when a driver does something that irritates you, instead of shouting or honking, you can simply breathe and remember that your peace of mind is more important than an impulsive reaction. By doing this, you apply the expansion of consciousness and allow the anger to lose its strength. This approach doesn't mean eliminating emotions, but rather learning to be an observer of them. Anger is not the problem, but rather how we allow it to dominate our mind. This is something the Stoics mastered perfectly. They didn't see emotions as enemies, but as signals of what was happening internally. With the expansion of consciousness, we can look beyond the raw emotion and focus on what really matters, our reaction, which is what defines our character, and the consequences of our actions. Over time, by following this Stoic path, you begin to notice that situations that would have made you explode in anger no longer have that power over you. Anger becomes a reflection of your lack of control, and by applying Stoic principles, you regain command over yourself. By doing this consistently, you create a mental routine that favors self-control and strengthens your inner peace. However, of course, it's not easy and doesn't happen overnight. Daily practice is necessary, and Stoic philosophy reminds us of this. By reflecting on the situations that triggered your anger, you start to notice patterns. Each moment of anger is an opportunity for expanding consciousness, an invitation to become more aware of your reactions and improve your ability to control what you can control. Anger, for the Stoics, is not just a fleeting emotion. It is seen as a true obstacle to a good life. When we lose emotional control, we can be dragged by our instincts and impulses, acting impulsively and harmfully. Anger prevents us from making rational decisions, causing our actions to be driven by a desire for revenge or to show who's in charge. This, of course, ends up damaging our relationships and our own mental and physical health. Therefore, the Stoic invites us to reflect. Is anger bringing me closer to the person I want to be? When we allow ourselves to be dominated by anger, we often act thoughtlessly, and this can lead to regrets later. How many times after a heated argument do we realize that it wasn't worth it? Perhaps we said things we regret, or even distanced ourselves from someone we love. Stoicism teaches us that by yielding to anger, we are compromising our future, risking the harmony of our relationships and our inner peace. Anger, then, is not just an enemy in the moment, but a long-term enemy that can erode our happiness. This obstacle is especially dangerous because it can affect our physical and mental health. Studies show that constant stress and anger increase blood pressure and can weaken the immune system, making us more vulnerable to illness. The Stoic understands that by keeping anger under control, we are not only protecting our relationships, but also our health. Instead of investing energy in unnecessary fights and arguments, Stoic philosophy suggests that this energy be redirected toward personal growth and building a more fulfilling life. Furthermore, when we choose not to give into anger, we become more aware of our ability to influence the environment around us. A Stoic understands that by staying calm and rational in a conflict situation, they can transform the energy around them. Inner peace is contagious. This doesn't mean that others will always act according to our desires, but Stoic philosophy reminds us that our reaction is the only domain we truly have over the situation, and thus, anger loses its power over us. In the end, when we reflect on anger as an obstacle to a good life, we see that Stoicism offers us a clear path. Choose calmness, rationality, and reflection over emotional outbursts. And by doing so, we are not only creating better relationships, but also cultivating much healthier and balanced mental and physical health. Anger, then, is just a temporary obstacle, but the peace that comes with self-control is lasting. The control of expectations is perhaps one of the most powerful practices taught by the Stoics when it comes to dealing with anger. Often, anger arises when our expectations are not met, and this happens because, at some level, we believe that the world should adapt to our needs. However, by accepting that reality doesn't work that way, we can reach a deeper level of inner peace. Stoicism teaches us that peace doesn't come from shaping the world to our liking, but from accepting what it truly is, with all its imperfections and uncertainties. For example, imagine you've planned an important event, like a business meeting or a gathering with friends, and something goes wrong. If your expectation was that everything would go perfectly, failure may be seen as unacceptable, leading to frustration or even anger. However, Stoic philosophy suggests that true peace comes when we abandon the expectation of perfection and accept that the unexpected is part of life. Instead of clinging to the idea of control, the Stoics invite us to embrace flexibility and adaptation. The acceptance of imperfection makes anger unnecessary. The Stoic, therefore, prepares mentally for the challenges and surprises of life. They know that if something doesn't go as expected, it's not the end of the world. They recognize that life is made of ups and downs, and none of us has total control over what happens around us. By cultivating this mindset, anger loses the space it once occupied because, instead of reacting with frustration, the Stoic simply adjusts their expectations and moves on. The secret is in expecting the unexpected and being prepared to respond with serenity. A very common practice among the Stoics is daily reflection. They dedicate themselves to thinking about what might go wrong during their day and how they would react if that happened. This creates a mindset of acceptance and flexibility, where anger has no room to settle. Imagine starting your day by asking yourself, what if I encounter a challenge I didn't foresee? How can I respond calmly and rationally? This practice helps shape our expectations more realistically, reducing the chance of being overtaken by anger when things don't go as expected. In the end, controlling expectations doesn't mean giving up on our goals or stopping our desire to improve things around us. It means, on the contrary, understanding that while our actions are controllable, the results are often not. Accepting this frees us from anger because we realize that life, in its essence, doesn't follow a script that we create. And when we accept this with wisdom, our reactions become calmer and the space for anger fades away. Forgiveness, for the Stoics, is not just an act of kindness toward others, but a powerful tool for preserving our inner peace. Anger often feeds on resentment and hurt, and the more we cling to these feelings, the harder it becomes to find tranquility. However, by forgiving, we are not only freeing the other person, but, most importantly, ourselves. Forgiveness allows us to leave the past behind, breaking the cycles of pain and frustration that anger imposes on us. After all, as the Stoics well knew, living in peace does not depend on what others do, but on how we choose to react. The act of forgiving does not mean forgetting what happened or giving up our sense of justice. On the contrary, the Stoic understands that by forgiving, we are choosing not to allow something beyond our control to continue affecting us. Anger often stems from events we cannot change, but forgiveness gives us the freedom to move on. Imagine someone wronged you deeply. You could easily cling to anger, allowing it to contaminate your mind and relationships. However, by choosing to forgive, you create space for healing, both for yourself and those around you. In this case, anger loses its power. Of course, forgiveness is not easy. The pain caused by betrayal or injustice can be deep, and the temptation to hold on to resentment can be great. However, the Stoics teach us that holding on to anger toward others is like carrying an unnecessary burden. By releasing resentment, we are not saying what happened was acceptable. We are simply acknowledging that, for the sake of our mental and emotional health, we need to move forward. Forgiveness, then, is a conscious choice to let go of what we cannot control and focus on what we can, our peace of mind. For example, if someone hurt you in the past, but you continue to relive that pain and cultivate anger, it only keeps the wound open. But when you forgive, even without forgetting, you allow that pain to stop controlling your life. The Stoic understands that, although external situations may affect us, how we respond is always a choice. Therefore, forgiveness is not a weakness, but a true inner strength that allows us to keep growing and evolving. By forgiving, you also gain a significant advantage: freedom. Freedom from carrying the weight of anger and vengeance, and freedom to focus on something much more important: your own well-being. True peace comes from within, and when we practice forgiveness, we open the path for that peace to settle deeply in our lives. Thus, instead of being prisoners of anger, we can become masters of our own inner peace. Self-control is one of the most valuable skills we can cultivate, and the Stoics understand it as one of the keys to a balanced life free of regrets. Anger, like any intense emotion, tends to push us toward impulsive reactions. However, the Stoic knows that true strength lies in being able to take a step back before acting. When feeling anger rising, the first step is to stop and reflect. Is this worth it? How will my response now affect my future? This simple but powerful practice is what differentiates an impulsive person from one who acts with wisdom. Moreover, daily reflection is essential for self-control. The Stoics used to practice the exercise of review at the end of the day, reflecting on their actions and reactions. This practice allows us to learn from our mistakes and improve our behavior. For example, if you find yourself reacting impulsively to a situation, reflection can help you understand what triggered that anger and how you can react more calmly in the future. The simple act of reflecting makes us more aware of our choices and allows us to constantly improve. Another crucial aspect of self-control is knowing when to give space to emotions. It's not about suppressing what we feel, but understanding the right moment to react. A Stoic does not deny their emotions. They acknowledge them, but choose how to act in response. This requires practice and patience, but over time, you become increasingly skilled at responding with calm and reflection. For instance, when receiving negative feedback, instead of reacting impulsively, the Stoic might thank the opportunity to grow and reflect on what can be learned from the feedback. Rather than reacting with anger, they use the situation as an opportunity for self-discovery. Self-control also involves the ability to distance oneself from situations that may generate unnecessary anger. It's not about avoiding challenges, but rather choosing the battles that truly matter. The Stoic understands that it's not worth wasting energy on empty arguments or situations beyond their control. By practicing self-control, they are able to focus on what truly matters, such as personal growth and maintaining their inner peace. Over time, self-control becomes second nature. Instead of reacting impulsively to anger, the Stoic learns to choose how to respond wisely. The constant practice of reflection and self-control creates a strong and resilient mindset, capable of facing any challenge without losing calm. And as you train your mind to act with more control and balance, you begin to notice that anger becomes an emotion increasingly easier to manage. Now that you've learned how the lessons of Stoicism can transform the way you deal with difficult people, it's time to put it all into practice. Remember, it's not about controlling others, but controlling your own reactions. Are you ready to become a master of your inner peace? How will you react the next time someone tries to get on your nerves? Reflect on this and start applying these teachings in your daily life. The path to calm is in your hands, and the change starts now. If you're determined to improve your self-control and dive deeper into Stoicism, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to keep learning with us. Let's go together on this journey of personal growth.